Say my name, Destiny's Child, Dr. Vivek Murthy. That is your intro right there.
Sounds good.
You don't get that
It's a
every
unique
day.
intro.
Yeah, you don't get that every day probably at the office.
No, I don't.
It's great to have you on with us. So thanks for everything. Again, thanks for your countless hours around the clock working on trying to get things right here. We appreciate it. So,
That's kind of you. Thanks.
I want to start out. I mean, we're talking about vaccinations. We're talking about the boosters. But I do want to start with something specific. And Sissany, who you see on the screen, just brought this scenario up. And it's a situation that's happening with families at Thanksgiving where the host is having family members over. One or some are not vaccinated. What do you do?
Yeah.
What's the right thing to do?
Well, that's a really good question. And look, the holidays are such an important time. We missed that a lot last year on the holidays. And I really want people to be able to get together today safely. I'm actually planning to get together with my extended family, for Thanksgiving, and we're really excited about that. But what's really important to know is that how to do it really matters. And there are layers of precautions that we can put in place. Getting vaccinated is one of those. So you get vaccinated, it drops your risk. If people are boosted as well, that drops your risk even further. If you use testing on the same day when people are coming together, you test them all with a rapid test, that can further reduce your risk. And then again, make sure you're getting together in places that are well ventilated can also help. So there are a lot of things we can do to make it safer. If you've got a mixed gathering though, some people are vaccinated, some who are unvaccinated, that does raise the risk. So if you, for example, are in a higher risk category, or maybe you haven't been boosted yet, you probably want to keep your mask on, like in those circumstances. If you're going to be eating together, you probably want to think, okay, how can we set up a location, maybe outdoors in a patio, with some heated lamps, maybe open some windows, have some inside sort of filters and vents that can use to improve air circulation. But it is increased risk if you've got people who are not vaccinated. One last thing I'll just say is you might feel fine about yourself, but there's some people out there who have kids at home who may not be vaccinated, or may have elderly relatives who are immunocompromised. And we have to remember that even if we're okay, if we pick up something and bring it back home, that could put other people at risk. So I would, and you're thinking about your own risk, I would think about your health and about the people that you live with, because that your transmission makes a difference too.
All right, so Friday, the FDA and the CDC approved boosters for everyone over 18. Some parents still skeptical about getting their kids these shots. How are you thinking about that now?
Well, Ryan, I'm actually one of the parents who's excited about these vaccines being available, because I've got a child who's 5. I just took him last week to get vaccinated. He is super excited. He's been showing everybody his sticker that says he got vaccinated for COVID. So look, the reason so many parents like me are excited about this is because, look, for more than a year and a half, we've been waiting for an opportunity to protect our kids.
Sure. And
we now finally have that. To parents out there, though, who are asking questions about the vaccine, who may have some worries about it, first thing I want to say is it's totally fine to have questions. This is your child. You should make sure all of your questions are answered. But here's what I'd want you to know. Number one, this vaccine was designed specifically for kids. The lower dose, it was studied in trials specifically for children. Number two, the studies showed that the vaccine was more than 90% effective in protecting our kids from symptomatic COVID, and it was also remarkably safe. So there were no serious adverse effects that were seen. The only side effects kids had were like soreness in the arm, fatigue, headache that lasted for about a day or two, and then resolved, leaving them with protection. And finally, just remember this. There's a choice that you make when you don't get vaccinated, which is that you are at increased risk for getting COVID and allowing your child to be impacted by the virus. And those impacts are not insubstantial. There's a narrative out there, a myth, if you will, that COVID's not harmful in kids. It's not a big deal. But we've lost hundreds of kids to COVID. Thousands have been hospitalized. Many are suffering with long COVID, the prolonged symptoms, the shortness of breath and fatigue. We can protect our kids in a safe way, and that's the vaccine. That's why I want all parents to consider it.
Are we looking at having to get the booster probably every year going forward?
It's a great question. So we don't know yet, because only time will tell. There are some vaccines where you need 3 doses in a series, and then you're good for a number of years. The hepatitis B vaccine would be one example of those. And this might end up being one of those vaccines where the booster's your 3rd shot and you're good for a while. But what we have to do is follow people, see if there's any reduction in protection over time. If there is, they may need another boost, kind of like the flu shot that you get every year. But for now, if you are eligible for booster, please go out there and get it. It's a great way to enhance your protection. And everyone is eligible who's an adult who's more than 6 months out from Pfizer or Moderna, or more than 2 months out from your J&J vaccine.
So we've seen you talking about the vaccines. By the way, you can visit vaccines.gov to find a COVID-19 vaccine near you. But you're both the 19th and 21st Surgeon General? Is that right?
So that's right, Ryan. Yeah.
All right. Now, so take me inside. I get to see you so serious all the time. What's the fun part of being the U.S. Surgeon General? Like, you have a tunnel that goes from your house to the building? Like, what do you got?
There are a lot of fun parts of the job. I actually got to go to a children's hospital a few days ago, hang out with Superman, with basketball players, with Cinderella. I get to hang out with kids all the time, talking about vaccines. It's a ton of fun. And I'll tell you who's not impressed with my job, though, are my kids.
Your family. Yeah. You have a 5-year-old and what else? You have a 5 and what?
A 5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old.
Yeah. They'll think it's cool soon. Don't worry. They'll come around.
Do you have any information of vaccines for younger kids? Like, I have a newborn and I have 3-year-old twins. When would we see any sort of vaccine for that age group?
Yeah, I'm so impressed, first of all, that you've got 3 kids that are so young. We are barely managing with our 2. So huge respect to you. It's a great question. We're actually in a similar boat where, our youngest is not yet eligible for vaccine. Our thinking is that in early 2022, potentially the first quarter of 2022, we may have a vaccine for kids under 5 rather. And I can't wait for that moment. But the trials are actually in progress right now. They have to be completed and then analyzed and then go through the FDA review process. One thing I can tell you is that getting vaccines through the process is the top priority for the FDA. I've talked to them privately about this. They've said this publicly, but it truly is their top priority. So they'll get it to us as soon as possible.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time. It is something that we cannot say enough. Get your vaccine, get your booster, follow along, and check out locations. And, of course, like you said, it's okay to be curious and ask questions, too. Dr. Murthy.
Absolutely. Yeah, just make sure if you ask questions, just make sure you're getting answers from credible sources. There are a lot of misinformation floating around online. People are getting a lot of myths and false information through the social media feeds. But talk to your doctor, talk to your local children's hospital, Department of Health, CDC site. Get accurate information because, remember, knowledge is power, and it can save your life.
I still think he has a tunnel from the office that comes up in his backyard, like under a trampoline or something,
I think so, too.
When you come to DC, Ryan, we'll see if we can find a tunnel.
Oh, you heard it here first. All right, pal. Thanks for coming on. Take good care.
Bye. Thank you.
You too. Good to see you all.